There we go. Okay. Checking my audio. Making sure I sound good. All right. And everybody is joining. All right. The JFK or the JFO show says, hey, let's go. Carlos, the average clown hole. That's a pretty good name. Gnome Warlord. That's also a pretty good name. Good afternoon, my guy, says Esoteric. All right, we're all getting in here. Q Alter says, I'm going to sell you all to the black market for a fresh pack of gummy worms. That's a... I can lend you some money if you need some, man. We don't need to go to that extreme. So, I don't know if you guys saw, but more playlists are coming to Halo Infinite. John Unishek and Joseph Staten went on Twitter and they addressed people, which, you know, thank you. But, okay, let me take a look at my challenges. I gotta kill Spartans from behind with a melee attack in PvP. That's relatively easy, as well as rocket launcher kills. We'll hop in a quick match. Did you update all of your evolution videos? So, Classy Fish, the weapon evolution videos, I thought about this while falling asleep last night. Would you guys want a reboot of the evolution series? What I would do is they'd all have a new thumbnail. They'd come out more consistently, but it would require me to do over old weapons. A lot of my opinions have changed on some of the weapons because those evolution videos I've done for years now, and naturally opinions shift. And in the case of the MCC, some weapon evolutions that I made, I actually they're kind of defunct almost because changes to the net code have had tangible impacts on balancing. So if you guys are okay with me taking down videos and then refreshing them, even if it means that some of the information I'm going to give you is going to be completely different based on just understanding a bit more about the games. Okay, everyone is basically saying, okay, yes, but don't get rid of the old ones. Okay, Average Clown Hole. I got an idea for you then. Would you guys like it if I put those in a playlist but unlisted them? That way people couldn't, like, find two videos with the exact same title from me and they both give, like, contradictory information. Just one is a lot older than the other. How does that sound? And I'd put them in a playlist. That way, if you guys want to watch them, they're right there and you guys can access them. Like, not privating them, you know? Yeah, so I'm not taking them down, just unlisting them so they don't show up in search results, but just keeping them in a playlist for you all to enjoy. Okay. That was a bizarre stress noise I just made. Shrimpy says, can't believe they have reach armor in the store. Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that. So it's nice that the playlists are being addressed now. It only took them, like, what, 3 weeks? But the prices and the aggressive monetization. What is nice about them is, like, so I personally have also been talking with people and saying, like, this doesn't look good, right? I can confirm that they are listening to people's feedback. They're not just, like, ignoring people and hoping that it goes away. The playlists they've been keeping an eye on for quite a while now, and this is why now they're making a statement about it. They've kind of been, like, formulating a plan on how to address it, how they're going to publicly communicate the lack of playlist issue to people. So as for the monetization in the store, keep on hitting them, okay? Feedback matters. And I certainly will also keep giving them feedback on, hey, this, like, isn't cool what you guys are doing. Springtrap added you as a friend. That was very nice of Springtrap. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of people who are adding me as a friend. Also new drivers. Holy crap, okay. My game stutters every time the Xbox console companion app does a thing. New drivers came out today for Halo Infinite on PC. And wow, the performance is a lot better. I don't know about you guys. I'd actually, some of you who are on PC right now, check your control, your GeForce experience if you're on NVIDIA. I'm not sure what the equivalent is called for AMD, but check your drivers. There's a new update out, and at least for me, Halo Infinite is performing way better than it used to. It's a pity that the aim still feels kind of like weird and sluggish, and I'm starting to feel it now, you know, that we've had the game for like a few weeks and kind of like the wow factor of a new game is passing and we're starting to notice like tiny little inconsistencies. Oh boy. Let me grab that ball. Where'd it go? There we go. Sorry, I'm not reading the chat right now. I see Killer Wolf, though, says, I've been watching you and Hidden X's... I'm about to lose the ball. Okay. I've been watching you and Hidden and Halo Follower, etc. since 2015, and I always love watching your videos. Dude, I appreciate that. I appreciate that you've stuck around, and that I've been entertaining enough to stick around for quite a while now. Hopefully, you know, the content train keeps on coming. Also, I wanted to ask you guys, so the last few videos that I've made have sort of been made with a very different mindset, which is less rigidly scripted and more vaguely scripted, where I've got kind of like a vague script that I'm following, but they are a little bit more organic, I guess you could say, as talking points. Like, basically, if we're talking about, like, balancing or something, or the pros and cons of something, it's less of this theatrical production, and it's just kind of like a chill video. What do you think about that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that style of video. If you want to see more stuff like that, since it allows me actually to get videos up faster, damn it. Zataran says, hearing so many positive things about the campaign before launch makes me more excited than I already am. Yeah, the launch I'm excited about. Colby Payne. Oh, guys, Colby Payne's a developer. He worked on Halo Infinite. Even after installing the new drivers, I'm crashing every game. Okay, that's interesting. Colby, I saw that there's a high-definition texture pack that at least some of the pros are saying to uninstall in the Steam directory. Or, you know, when you bring up your DLC for Halo Infinite. Some people are saying to just disable that. I disabled it, and it buffed my performance considerably. But that's weird, crashing. I'm trying to think of what would cause that. Shrimpy says, I feel sorry for the devs. They put their heart into this game, and the monetization team butchered it and left a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, what's kind of hard about that, I guess, is that, like, a lot of developers... Like, development houses aren't, like, this unified thing. You know, where it's just like this amorphous blob of people that are all in agreement with each other. Like, you've got like your level designers who are just designing levels. They're completely divorced from whatever like the live team is working on and stuff, unless it's immediately relevant to their level design. And so it does kind of suck when you've got like excellent map design, you've got like really awesome gunplay, you've got like solid balancing out of the gate, and then you've got the monetization discussion, which is kind of overshadowing all of the positive aspects. You know, same with like the playlists. I'm sure there's no developer who worked on some of these multiplayer maps that is like excited about the fact that there's not a lot of playlists. Clone Delta says, I wish items weren't bundled, just sold individually. Yeah, it's the bundling that kind of bothers me. Because, like, some of that stuff is cool, but it's bundled with stuff that is... Oh, my gosh, I'm about to... Yup, here they come. It's bundled with stuff that I just don't care about. And the fact that I can't purchase the thing that I want... It's like, well, this thing's artificially inflated in price, because, like, that useless thing, I'm never going to equip it. I just want that little thing that changes the look of the sidekick. So it's just, like, basically artificially bumping the price by bundling it with, you know, the crap that people don't want to buy and won't buy. Oh, man, that guy was waiting for me. Here, I'm going to bump up my FOV. Yeah, so Watcher says like 9 out of 10 things are perfect, but that one thing is such a big thing. Yeah, it's like if you could picture like a box, like a series of boxes, like there's 10 boxes, and they all represent kind of like the things that are good about Halo Infinite and the things that are bad. There's 9 boxes that are all about the same size, and they're all the good things. But the one box full of the stuff that's bad is huge and like dwarfing them. Because Halo Infinite does have so much going for it. I hope that they're able to respond to a lot of people's criticisms faster. Zataran says, did you hear about the extra playlists later after launch, like SWAT and Feet and Free for All? Yeah, yeah, I did see that. And I also saw like the response was kind of interesting because they said like we wanted to use the events to try out new modes before adding them to the game. And I get that on one hand. It's like, thank you at least, for like being, for explaining, I guess, why these things are missing. Like that makes more sense then. But what I guess I don't quite understand is why these aren't new modes, Free for All? Infection? Like those aren't new modes to try. They're legacy modes that I've put so many hours into Reach Infection and Reach Free for All. I don't need to try that out. I know that mode quite well. It's home to me. And then for the other people, like, okay, let's make the argument for like potential new players. Infection? I don't think that needs to be tried out. People coming over from Call of Duty, they know what an infection mode is. They know what a free-for-all mode is. Some of these like modes, they're not just legacy Halo modes. They're just generic multiplayer modes that a lot of multiplayer games have. And I really hope that like it's not like a lack of faith or a lack of confidence in Halo that even legacy modes that are quite generic on their own right need to be tested simply because they're Halo modes. That's my thought on that situation. Killer Wolf says, wish they'd bring back Juggernaut and Assault. Yeah, especially Juggernaut. Juggernaut was fun. Aaron Whitaker says, are you worried Halo's staples like Infection will be walled as events like Fiesta has? The quick play map thumbnails being the obvious Infection screenshots really make the lack of content sting. Yeah, the placeholder, the Halo 5 Infection placeholder image. Yeah, those were my thoughts, though, on like that whole situation. Like, I really do hope it's not like, the live team kind of being like, well, Halo, it's been a while since Halo is irrelevant, and like some of these legacy modes, like we need to monitor playlist health and population health. Like we don't know if these will resonate with this new crowd. We got to test them out. It's like, guys, it's free for all. Everybody knows what a free for all mode is, not just Halo fans. Oh boy, that was a mistake. I just walled myself. And it's important that people keep being vocal, because I do get still the occasional it's just a beta comment, and I will always retort with, what is the point of a beta if not for feedback? And if it wasn't for the feedback during the it's just a beta phase, we wouldn't have gotten the massive XP progression system improvements that we've already seen. Like, it's been almost like weekly adjustments, and now actually the daily play count, like I think its first day is 300 XP, or first match of the day is 300 XP, then it moves to 200 XP, and then a few matches later it bumps down to 100 XP before settling at 50. And like, hey, that's pretty well paced. It doesn't solve the problem of there not being a progression system, just being challenges, but what I can say is that my XP distribution is really evenly paced now because of the changes, and that was all based on feedback. So keep being vocal, keep giving feedback. People can call it whining all they want, but that whining is having a tangible improvement on their experience too. Broden says, I wish my $60 purchase wasn't ruined by having to buy all the new items. They really should allow people who bought the campaign to get credits for free, and even if it takes them a while, like Fortnite. Yeah, so, okay. I was thinking about that situation. We'll cycle back to that for a second. I'm going to answer Makuda, who says, thank you for the content. I've been subbed since the infamous Halo 5 video. At the time, it really connected with me as I was going through some hardships. It's been therapeutic to watch the channel grow and mature. Makuda, that means a lot to hear. That warms my heart. Thank you so much, man. UNSC Frigate Grafton says, Halo Infinite has the Reach armor, but not the Reach booties. Yeah, you know, it's funny, because I don't want to speak on that, because I'm a guy, and I don't want to be the guy, like, make the women thicker, you know, because that just makes me look like a weirdo. But my girlfriend brought up, Rebecca, she was like, where are, like, the feminine bodies? Like, they're all so generic looking. And I was like, okay, that's basically the green light to be like, yeah, guys, we could use some more diversity, I guess, in, like, the body proportions. You know, give us some more body types. But, as for the monetization, so, in my opinion, listen, Call of Duty sucks, okay? We're just going to say that out of the gate. Call of Duty's monetization gets, like, bad. But something I appreciate, at least, about Activision in terms of their consistency is I like that they give the launch month of the game breathing room in regards to the store. What I don't like about Halo Infinite is that, so it is a free-to-play, at least the multiplayer portion of the game. But for a lot of us Halo fans, like, we do associate the Halo series with being, like, a $60 purchase, and with that $60 comes all of the content day one that we can earn via gameplay. This is the first Halo game where, even if we've bought the campaign as a $60 purchase, like, the multiplayer is treating us as if we didn't spend a dime, and it wants us to shell out cash. And it's made worse by, if you did pay for the campaign, you're now being greeted with a multiplayer experience. Like, basically now you're only paying for the campaign, and there's no way to kind of upgrade that to encompass the multiplayer, you know? I do wish that Halo Infinite gave players at least, like, a month to relax and earn stuff before it started dishing out, like, the cosmetic rotating store, you know? It's very off-putting that immediately, like, you know, 1 second after the servers went live and people bought the battle pass, it's immediately like, more money, please. Like, whoa, like, slow down for a second. People just bought the campaign, just bought the battle pass, are greeted with this kind of grindy experience, and now you're immediately like, tee-hee, can I have some more money? I'll sell you the color blue for $5. It's like, chill out a little bit, you know? Relax, give people some breathing room to earn the stuff that they've paid for. You know, those cosmetics can come later. Let people enjoy the game a little bit first. Because right now it does feel like a lot of, like, basically, like, don't buy the battle pass. All the cool stuff is right now in the rotating store. And also, don't buy anything from the rotating store, because I'm betting you a cooler thing will be in there next week. Like, the monetization pacing is so fast and so aggressive up front out of the gate. It's very off-putting. Oh. There we go. Let me find a spot to either die or catch my breath. That way I can read some of your responses, but... Somebody says $5. It's not that cheap, is it? Yeah, sorry. I think it's actually more expensive. It's something ridiculous. Like $7? Or I guess like that one bundle that was just like a Halo Reach armor. And they wanted like $20 for it. It was like, guys, come on. You know, that Halo 5 helmet pack that had all those like Halo 3 helmets in them, that was $10. And that came with about 10 different helmets. You know, chill out a bit. And keep speaking up about it, by the way, okay? Don't be quiet, because, you know, kind of like the feedback to the XP progression system, the lack of playlists, like, if we stay quiet, or we do the it's just cosmetic thing, you know, to kind of lazily dismiss people's, in my opinion, well-founded issues with the pricing model, like, it's only going to get worse. Here, let's run over here. I'm like half paying attention. A super competitive mode like this, man, it would be super nice if there was just like a Slayer playlist, you know? That way I could not think about objectives. Damn it. Okay. All right, let's back up a little bit and answer some of these. Sudden death. Okay, Eggman Gaming says, catching this stream while at work, couldn't miss, and I have learned the best way to get the blood boiling, trying to 3-star the Bulldog at the Academy. Also had some new thoughts about the Bulldog, but in another one because of the limit. Okay, so Eggman has some opinions about the Bulldog. I can't wait to hear it, because I also have some thoughts about it. Marcus says, how do you think that some of the hesitancy around the modes is having to prove to the higher ups at Microsoft that you really can release a 2008 shooter in 2021? Some of that could totally be accurate, because like some of the weird like, you know, when you're in kind of like way high up the food chain, you get very kind of like divorced from how a lot of like gamers think, because all you're seeing is data, but you're not actually talking with people in that stream of data, you know, like for all the people that are playing Apex Legends and stuff, like I'm sure that the community would like more playlists in Apex Legends, so I wouldn't be surprised if you do have some people that are pushing back because they're like, well, look at Apex Legends, it has only a few playlists, divorced from, you know, the reality that Halo is not a 100-person battle royale game. And that even the Apex Legends community would love more playlists. Blake Beecham says, male or female doesn't matter, just let me make my super soldiers think. Yeah, there's some people that think like that. D. Devon gives $2. Thank you so much, friend. Thoughts on a specific armor core with challenge-based unlocks that is completely separate from fracture events. Miss having that flex. Yeah, I'd like some of the armor cores to be just based around general achievement in the game. Like, not, you know, you put 200 hours into the Fiesta playlist and you did a handstand while blowing your nose 4 times in a Total Control match. Like, do some just like bizarre weird stuff, you know? Like, and make them permanent challenges, you know, not like these timed things. Like, it's just this under-the-hood permanent challenge that is always kind of like measuring how you're doing. And then it's when you do get something like a crazy warthog maneuver, boom, that challenge ticks and you move on to the next one. Just like that deep progression system that people enjoy. Let's go this way. I'm going to answer a couple more of those once I die, don't worry. I got to figure out a way to backsmack 5 Spartans. Because that's a thing that requires a little bit of, like, focus. And unfortunately, I'm not very focused because I'm answering. And I'm also probably missing a lot of super chats. If I do miss anybody's, I see that I'm really behind, just keep spamming, okay? Okay, so Eggman Gaming says, the new idea for the Bulldog is give it slightly longer range, nothing crazy, just a little bit longer, and make it an alternative to the pistol cleanup. And then bring in the good pump shotty so we can counter the plasma sword, please. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I actually thought, okay, so the rec variants exist in Halo Infinite because they're, when you play, like, Fiesta offline and stuff like that, they can spawn. People already have the campaign has a few variants as well. What I think that they could do to temporarily solve this problem is make a variant of the Bulldog that does kind of have shotgun-like stats, and basically put that on maps as like a power weapon and temporarily, and then once that classic shell-loading shotgun comes in, boom, there you go. That way you don't have to alter the role of the Bulldog, what 343 wants it to be, and you can kind of, you know, have a temporary stopgap to make up for the fact that for some reason the shell-loading shotgun isn't here. Broden says, I bought the game in Battle Pass and just hope eventually they will allow me to unlock things because there are barely any armors in the pass. Yeah, it's also kind of weird because I don't think the pass is very well, like, paced. The Memories of Reach pass, it's split between two different armor cores. And what I found, at least based in my experience with it, is I wish actually that this pass would have been exclusively around that Reach armor set, instead of, you know, splitting it up between the Infinite armor set and the Reach armor set, because all that means is that both of these armors have less options, because it has to be divided up between the two. Oh boy. I'm terrible with the Infinite Sniper, so I'm at a... Whoa, what? So I am right now at a severe disadvantage on this map. Halfway to victory. I hope Jeff Steitzer's doing well. I wonder what he's up to. He's been really vocal in the community since Jeff Steitzer, for those who don't know, he is the voice of the Halo announcer. You know, the Slayer. He's that guy. He doesn't get a lot of recognition by name because, you know, he's the Halo announcer. He's the voice of God. And lately, people have been speaking up a lot more about Jeff Steitzer, like how much they love him and stuff, and using his name, not just calling him the Halo announcer. And ever since that, he's actually been cropping up in like online forums, like telling people, you know, thank you. I think he's in his 60s. And yeah, he's just like this sweet guy. Yeah, and I wonder what he's up to. I hope somebody, like, interviews him. Just waiting for that guy to come in here. Okay, the match is almost over, so we'll be able to... There we go. All right, let's answer some more people. I see you guys. Disco Prince says Halo Infinite should have actually Halo Infinite should have actual content come before or at the same time as the catch shop stuff. Yeah, like I don't know. I don't play a lot of free-to-play games because, well, this is what we're dealing with. So I'm not sure if this is like a standard thing, you know, just the idea of like launching it and then immediately out of the gate being like, money, please. But it's very off-putting, and it just makes me not want to play the game and not want to spend money. The Killer Wolf says, the Bulldog looks like a COD shotgun. I don't like it. I agree. It does kind of look like something that you'd see in Modern Warfare. But I also think, like, that's kind of a byproduct of 343's aesthetic look that they're going for with Halo Infinite, the modern military but in outer space look. A lot of weapons in Halo Reach had a similar look. They looked almost more fitting in Modern Warfare than they did Halo. And it looks like this is just a game where one of those Modern Warfare weapons made it past concept art and became a proper weapon. I do think giving the Bulldog those classic glowing sights, like the classic shoddy, would have made it look a bit more Halo-y. But clearly, you know, the artists disagreed. Deg says, almost done with the pass, and I feel like I barely have any cosmetics. Disappointing that they're keeping some Reach stuff only for the store. Yeah, I feel like the pass should be reserved, or the rotating store should... Look at that one guy. Is that me? Oh my god, that was me. I was just looking at the wall. all of the Reach themed stuff, I feel like people bought that. Oh man, I am super boned. Yeah. If people bought the Reach Battle Pass, I think all the Reach cosmetics should be in it, you know? Because it devalues the pass if it's like you buy it and then you immediately see, you know. I wonder how the Bulldog would fit in Infection, says Moonkey. I don't think it would break Infection, but I think it would make Infection a considerably less fun mode if all the shotguns, you just reload them via a clip. Because I've always described in the past that the shotgun is a weapon that the act of reloading it forms gameplay stories. It's just like a cool reload mechanic because you can have, okay, your shotgun's completely empty. 3 zombies are now barreling in on you. 1 shell is in. That's 1 shot. 2 shells are in. They're getting closer. Are you going to start firing now and risk a melee on that 3rd zombie? Or are you going to see if you can get all 3 shells in and then hope that they didn't get close enough? You know? That's a story that a gameplay story that happens a lot in the Infection game type. And that won't happen if you just reload the shotgun via a clip. Damn it. Okay. Savart, the Lore Master Farmer, says, hey, past curfew, keep playing. In a past live stream... Sorry, that's pretty good. That's funny. In a past live stream, you asked for an idea for a Halo vehicle, and I have thought of one you might like. Also, I'm out of characters, though, so I'll continue in a second. I remember you. I am interested to hear your thoughts. Let me scroll up to make sure I didn't miss anybody else. No, I think I'm relatively caught up. Uh-oh, more coming in. Here, let me make sure that's the last one. Okay. Blake Beecham says, you know, aesthetically and from a lore standpoint, I like the Bulldog. However, not having the same close-range punch that the traditional shotty has is sad. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Was I surrounded and I just didn't notice because I was reading? I think aesthetically the Bulldog is fine. Like it's a well-modeled weapon. Just it's almost like Halo stuff. Usually a lot of the UNSC weapons, I feel like they all need just a glowing thing on them. Whether it be an ammo counter or like the pistol, glowing sights, cuz it is the future, you know? And it's while not being like Mass Effect future, you don't want it to just look like an M16 or an AA-12. You know, you do want to have it look kind of like a space M16 or a space AA-12, which, you know, the assault rifle, like, it has that sci-fi ammo counter on it. The sidekick, it has those glowing sights on them. Just a little bit of future-y stuff. You want it to kind of look like something you would see in the modern day, but something isn't quite right about it. And that one thing is why most armed forces wouldn't use it. That's how I would design the look of, like, human stuff in Halo, you know? And sometimes that is just throwing on generic glowing sights. Taco Dealer says, most free-to-play games let us earn currency without spending. That's a problem, then, if Halo Infinite isn't letting you do that, because, like, the memes write themselves that the in-game currency is called credits, you know, the thing from Halo Reach, yet Reach let us earn credits and this game doesn't. Like, the memes write themselves with that. Just trying to harass them and cause problems over there. There we go. They're moving. I just saw one of their guys run up there. You know, the Ravager is a cool weapon. And And I have theories on how it can be improved that don't mean just flat out buffing its damage. I think actually the issues with it are not a damage related thing, it's actually a utility thing. Because as a suppressive weapon, the Ravager brings solid ideas to the table. The alt-fire mode, the lobs of explosive goo, like, okay, that can all work. It's not achieving its goal, though. And it also helps that the thing has a bayonet on it that does increased melee damage, which, hey, I didn't know that about brute weapons. That's actually really cool. I think it needs player impulse. Like, if you want to keep it weak, another weak explosive weapon that actually the community quite likes is the brute shot. And what was awesome about the brute shot is even though it couldn't kill people reliably, what it could do is if a player was shooting at you and you just started firing at that player, it would throw them around the environment and they'd be forced to disengage from you. And it's like you're not killing them with it, but you are making it way too hard to engage and they have to peel away. And right now the Ravager, it doesn't have that, you know? There's no reason to engage somebody with the assault rifle. They're going to mow you down. They're going to melt you. And instead of buffing the Ravager and making it a free kill weapon where you just kind of vaguely point in the direction and lob goo at them, which kills them on impact, I think giving it player impulse would help a lot, like throwing players around the environment and stuff. Because, yeah, if that assault rifle player runs into the room, you can throw them right back out of the room by just lobbing all of that goo at them. Here, I'm gonna look at some of these comments. Killer Wolf says Halo's been 80s/90s military sci-fi and miss its inspiration of the the Aliens franchise. Halo Infinite has a lot of Alien in its aesthetic. I mean, look at this. You know, there is a lot of that kind of like what's old is new 90s/80s science fiction stuff in this game, especially so with the whole Visor operating system that they got going in the campaign. So something that's cool, and we, I can talk about this since it's not exactly a secret. You've seen it too, and they've talked about it. Is in the campaign, your Visor, your HUD has two different components to it. One is the operating system and like the surface level interface, which is like your blue HUD, you know, your motion tracker, your ammo, your weapons and stuff. But the under the hood code and operating system, when you pick up like a new piece of equipment, you'll actually see it like update the suit's firmware, and it looks like this kind of like dull digital green text that starts scrolling and like lines of code, and that's like ripped straight out of Alien. And I really like that. And there's actually quite a lot of that in this game. If you stop and just like look at UNSC terminals and stuff, they look at this. Those are like scan lines. This game definitely has that look to it. Savart the Lore Master Farmer says, I'm a fan of the Jak trilogy, and in Jak 3 you get access to typical ground vehicles for the desert missions. One of them has legs that allow you to jump in the air. I think it would that with the Falcon side turrets would be cool. Oh, like a little bipedal thing that you can stomp around in, and it's got guns hanging off the side and it can leap. That would be cool. That's actually a really good idea for a vehicle. Could you imagine if like a banished vehicle had something like that, just like a banished walker of some kind? Or even, like, hell, a grunt goblin. If we were to refresh the idea of the grunt goblin as a vehicle, could you imagine how cool it would be? Like, you've got the pilot grunt, and then you've got each hand has its own little gunner in it. And that's how you kind of take down the grunt goblin, is you blow off both the hands, and then you take down the driver. Born Stellar says, it's going to be fun dodging all the spoilers while I wait for co-op to restart. The Halo tradition with my brother, the Halo 5 killed. Oh, you're waiting for co-op to be added? I'm sorry about that, buddy. I am, of course, going to be posting spoilers on my channel, but something I am going to do for you guys is every single one of my thumbnails, when we're talking about spoilers, they will not have spoiler thumbnails. It will just be the box art, you know? Actman says, the fire rate on the Bulldog is wildly inconsistent to me. Like, it seems to skip shots. Yeah, like, well, it's kind of weird. Also, Actman's in the chat. But it's weird that you point that out, because have you noticed that a lot of animations in this game are missing frames? Like, it's especially noticeable when reloading things like the skewer. It almost reminds me of the Master Chief Collection, Halo Combat Evolved, before they updated it, how some animations in that game, especially the cutscenes, looked very jerky. It makes things feel really inconsistent, and the Bulldog is one of those animations that's just, for some reason, missing frames. And it just makes the act of firing it feel just wrong, to see this thing kind of like jittering and stuttering in your hand as it's pumping. It just, like, doesn't make a lot of sense. Actman, if you want to get on, man, we could stream if you'd like. Actman says, do you not have audio? I do actually have audio. Maybe it's a little bit quiet. I can turn it up. Here, let me scroll up and answer some more people. What do you think about the idea of seat switching? Let me try that sentence again. The idea of seat switching? I like the idea, but it feels like wasted potential without more multi-seated vehicles, and it kind of supports one-driver warthogism just a little. I don't think it's actually that bad of an idea, because when you are using the Warthog, something that players did anyways is, you know, they drive to a place, hop out, run over to the seat, and then get in. And I'm thinking about the animation time between the two things. So the animation of getting out, running over to the side, hopping in. Like, seat switching takes roughly about the same amount of time, maybe just a smidge faster, but it's so similar that I'd say it's not really taking away something from Halo. It's more like streamlining a strategy that players already did. Like, as long as the animation is kind of long to the point that it's kind of in parity with just the act of getting out and going over to the gunner seat, I think it's okay. Yeah, Actman, if you wanna join, man, I have my Discord open. The Keith Clan says, it makes me really excited to see campaign AI that feel reminiscent of the CE experience. I am curious to see if we will see these new enemy AI combat each other in multiple faction scenarios again. Yeah, so the enemy AI, they've got a little bit of like that focus to them that Combat Evolved had. There is some stuff that I'm like less keen on, but it's almost more of like a personal preference in how Halo is balanced than an actual design concern. Which is, I don't like grunts meleeing the player. I don't think grunts should be allowed to melee the player, because I think grunts are an enemy type that you want to get close to inherently, and discouraging the player to get close to them via a melee attack that can and will kill you. That's not... Same with the Jackal. I don't like the idea of the Jackals just batting and swatting at you when you get too close. I feel like that's a thing that you should reserve for the more dangerous enemy types. Like the elites. And again, not because it actually ruins combat, but more the way that it encourages the player to play Halo. You know, you feel a little bit more anxious around grunts. And I don't think grunts are an enemy type you want to feel anxious around. Unless they are in large numbers. You know? Grunts, their role is not really to kill the player. It's more to pepper the player constantly and make sure their shields are always draining. And the killing comes from some of the more dangerous ones, like the elites. Scrolling up. Killer Wolf says, how about a mech suit like the Mark 1 or 2 Spartan armor that replaces the Mantis as a vehicle? I guess maybe. I know that people are really attached to the Mantis. I don't have a stake in the Mantis game because I never thought it added much that the Scorpion didn't already. Like, it's just kind of like this big dumb thing that you get in and get a bunch of kills. The only difference is the Mantis is, like, taller and is a lot easier to get kills with. I think like Halo's vehicle sandbox can be a little bit more interesting than a giant thing you get in to get killing sprees. And those vehicles that encourage cooperative play, I think, make them all the more interesting. Lord Kaber said, or Kabir, is that a Destiny reference? I feel like that's a Destiny reference. He says, do you recommend playing the campaign on Heroic for the first time playthrough? Okay, don't do that, actually. So, Halo Infinite plays quite differently from past Halo games. With games like Halo 4 and Halo 5, you could play those on Heroic, since they were kind of like facsimiles, I guess, of like a Bungie Halo game. So, there were a lot of elements of the combat that were very familiar, but Halo Infinite, a lot of like the way that you engage with an enemy has been changed and altered to the point that some familiar weapons are now gone. There's a lot of new stuff in the sandbox and AI behaviors. And Heroic, I made the mistake of playing it first on Heroic, and it kicked my ass. It was fine when I was indoors. It was just a little bit harder than I was used to. But once I got into the open world and you're surrounded by enemies on all sides, you feel like you don't have a lot of breathing room. So I would actually recommend playing it on normal. Zatarin says, I like the idea of grunts using melee because it actually puts emphasis on the fact that they have strong arms that they can easily beat you with. See, that's more of like a realism thing for me. I'm thinking more about just what mechanically is fun for me. And I feel like, you know, I think of like those moments in Combat Evolved when you kill the elite and the grunts are like, wah, wah, and they start running around. It would suck if you were chasing them and they all turn around and just start wailing on you. Would it make sense? Sure, they have big arms, but for gameplay pacing, like the cowardly enemy having a way to just beat the shit out of the player, like I don't think that's the best game flow, at least. I even think just from like a presentation standpoint, like it's funny when you got close to the grunts and instead of charging you and meleeing you, the grunts actually started hobbling backwards really fast. Like they were scared of you. The only time where they would get close to you is when they just completely lost it and pulled out 2 frag grenades and charged you. Yeah, just the idea of a grunt being aggressive, kind of like it's not really how I would design Halo. Taco Dealer says, writing has me concerned for MCU humor and cringe. Oh, okay. So like that kind of like witty banter where it's just people talking and what they're saying is supposed to be witty. You know, where they're just kind of like commenting constantly on what's going on and not taking the situations they're in seriously. Halo has always had that kind of like banter, but it's not been quite as, like, drawn out as some of the MCU jokes go, where they're just, like, maybe a little bit too long. There is definitely some of that in Halo Infinite, but I think that's less to do with MCU cringe humor, and it's more due to, like, the nature of Halo Infinite and how long it is. With Halo 2, you had 15 linear levels and cutscenes, and in a cutscene, that's where a lot of the banter between 2 characters comes from. But in the gameplay, a lot of it was mostly just like dialogue that kind of propelled the player through the level. And in Halo Infinite, you know, people are talking way more than usual because of the longer runtime, and the cutscenes themselves are a lot longer. Just in general, the game's length allows for that banter to happen more, and some of the banter doesn't quite land. But I can say that there's only one joke in Halo Infinite so far. There's been a couple where I'm like, that wasn't really funny, but it's okay, like, moving on. There's only been one joke where I've been like, that did not land at all. Like that, you know, it's a, what's that term? Non-medy, where it was a joke that was so bad that you had less fun because of it. Like your face just drops. I think Halo Infinite only had one non-midi moment, where it's like the joke was just so bad that I felt myself frown. And definitely there are some jokes that I think are kind of like almost more performance jokes because of the performance capture, but because none of the animations for faces were running at 60 frames per second, they were all kind of like halved for some reason, that frame rate issue with animations. Some of the facial performance gags just didn't land for me because it looked weird. Because, you know, the body is shifting around at 60 frames per second, but the face almost looks like a GIF because it's animating at a lower frame rate. So it almost looks more like scary when the weapon smiles and makes a joke because she looks like a bizarre animatronic because of her face kind of jittering and stuttering under the frame rate. Hopefully that's a thing that they can fix, you know? Caleb says, Microsoft comes to you and tells you to come up with a monetization method for Halo that, one, keeps the fans happy, while two, paying for the big check they put down on developing the Slipstream engine. What do they do? Oh, the Slip Space engine? Yeah, I get that confused too. Okay. This may seem controversial. I'd introduce, so you'd have your battle pass and stuff. And I'd have the battle passes be kind of structured more around the idea of proper progression systems. Where the idea is, okay, we establish a progression system with ranks and stuff like that. But then what would happen is you'd be able to select your progression system, and each progression system would be designed around a specific aesthetic of Halo. So you've got, like, Heroes of Reach as one example. I'm pulling some ideas from Halo Infinite because they're good ideas. One system would be, like, a Halo 3 themed one, where all the cosmetics in that look like they're from the game Halo 3. And I would maybe make it not like $10, but something like $20. And at the end of these battle passes, that's where you can get like your flaming skulls or whatever. Like, basically pace the rewards so they're all around cosmetic. None of this time saver stuff. Like, you're getting shoulders. Some look kind of shitty and boring, but they're shoulders. And as you start to progress up the tree, you start getting the more, like, defined silhouettes that are kind of iconic, for lack of a better term, with the final couple of tiers being, like, you know, flaming skulls and whatever. And then I guess I would also introduce something kind of like a membership thing, where you can pay, like, $5 a month or whatever, and you get, I don't know, free currency. Like, I don't know. I don't even know if I would do a rotating store. And then the problem would be for that membership thing, I'd have to come up with a thing that is not necessary, I guess. It's more like being upfront about, guys, the reason for this membership is so you can support the development of the game, because it keeps a revenue stream coming in. This is something you can opt in, and just so that you're not getting literally nothing and you're only giving us $5 a month, here is something in return for helping us out with the development of the game. So those are some of my you caught me in the moment ideas. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
We have the ball. Ball dropped. Allied carrier down.
Broden says, turn your animation quality to max in the settings. That doesn't work. It's an engine level bug that they need to patch themselves. Animation quality, what's kind of interesting is I don't think it actually edits the frame rate of certain animations. I think what it does is it edits the complexity of the animations. So if you remember, Halo 5 had like really kind of like complicated and detailed animations, and partly due to just the way that they had designed the Halo 5 engine, not optimizing it very well, they kind of went overboard, and what they did is just anybody who is more than 30 feet away from you, their animation frames get cut in half, and they start looking a little bit stuttery. With Halo Infinite, they're actually a little bit more clever, where they seem to be doing, like, kind of being more aggressive with the further away from a player you are, their animations become a little bit less complicated, you know, less moving and jiggling parts and complicated footfalls, and they look a little bit more stock, for lack of a better word. So they're not cutting animation frames anymore, they're just cutting the complexity of the animations, which I think looks way better. But they do still have this current, bug that's been present for quite a while, which is some animations just don't update at the right frame rate. Killer Wolf says, Halo 2 has a Marine that will say, Wonder Twin Powers activate? Wonder Twin Powers activate? That's weird. What is that in reference to? Twin Star? I'm not sure. I think I was able to catch up with everybody. Oh my god, Muhammad Al-Rashid just donated $99, who says, is it just me or are Halo Infinite's weapons feeling kind of samey? Whenever I play a match in Infinite, I almost immediately get bored by the guns. At the risk of sounding like a fanboy with those rose-tinted classes, I really feel like the weapons in Halo 3 and ODST are better. I don't know. So I actually do agree with you. And I think it's not because of the weapons themselves. I think it's because those weapons have interesting utilities and secondary functions that aren't allowed to shine right now because of the balancing. One discussion we can have that I think a lot of people are going to be like, no, like they're going to shut down, which is why I hate bringing it up, is maybe weapons like the battle rifle and the assault rifle, they shouldn't be so easy to use in this game. The assault rifle, it's very easy to just get kills at most ranges in Arena, and there's very little reason to use anything else but the assault rifle. But a lot of people don't want to have that discussion, so a pitch I had for people was weapons like the battle rifle and the assault rifle, if they want them to be that easy, they don't have a lot of recoil, they're very easy to just kind of center the screen and hold down the trigger and get free kills. What they could do instead, 343, is introduce predictable recoil patterns where these weapons will always recoil the same way, and then introduce a bit of bullet travel time, kind of like the Mangler, just maybe with less of like a drop and more of just, it takes a little bit of time past medium range for the bullet to hit its target. That way, players have to start learning the recoil patterns of these weapons. They can't just hold down the trigger and the random weapon spread rewards them a free headshot every now and then. It makes the weapons a little bit more skill focused and means that players aren't constantly getting headshots with them, which opens up the rest of the sandbox to be like, is it safe? Is it safe? Are the assault rifles gone? And then they can start coming out and you can start using their secondary utilities a bit more. That being said, there are definitely still some balancing things. The pulse carbine, I have a theory on how they could solve it, and I'm actually writing it into a video that I'm hoping to have up tomorrow, which is, here's how I would solve the pulse carbine issue. Give it an alt fire mode. When you're hip firing it, it doesn't track targets. That way players can lead their shots and use it a little bit more strategically. And then when you aim down the sights with it, that's when the tracking module comes online. And the shots begin to kind of like track targets and stuff. And that is where you can have it be, you know how this thing's kind of weird in that it's really bad at a close range, but kind of okay at medium range? That's where that medium range can like come in. You got a mode for close range, and then you got a mode for medium range. Oh my god. Those are my thoughts on that, basically. Death Dragon says, I just love that the AR doesn't feel like a water gun. I don't think the AR needs to be a water gun to be viable, but I do think it can't be like how it is right now. Because what it is right now, I don't think is viable. What I call that is easy to use. I think the assault rifle is very easy and doesn't take a lot of skill to use. And so if the assault rifle wants to keep this range and lethality, I do think skill needs to be added to it, because right now it's just way too easy. It's luck of the draw if you're gonna land a headshot or not. A lot of assault rifle duels in this game, they're not skill. It's which one is the RNG gonna reward a headshot first. Sometimes it's me. I win the AR slot machine spin and get the headshot first, which kills the guy. Other times it's the enemy who wins the slot machine and gets the Yeah. Hunter says, I like how the AR is almost treated as a power weapon in ranked. Yeah, because it's a slot machine weapon. You pick up, hold down the trigger, one of those lucky bullets will hit the head because of the random bullet spread. If the AR was given a more consistent bullet pattern and a bit of bullet travel time, to make sure that it can't just like melt people at any range, then I think that that could balance it out. Oh boy. See? He got the headshot first. Nathaniel says, I thought Slipspace was a brand new engine that carried assets from Blam. Slipspace sounds like the Blam engine enhanced, hearing you talk about Infinite. Yeah, so 343, they do the thing that unfortunately a lot of developers do. It's for marketing. They say, like, our brand new engine. It's not brand new. It's brand new in the sense that it's the Blam engine that they have kind of stripped down and rewired the way that it handles certain things to streamline it and make it easier for engineers to build stuff. So, like, something kind of interesting is whenever assassinations come back, if they do, they're going to build assassinations slightly differently because the way that the Slipspace engine now handles mechanics like that, it's different from Halo 5. Halo 5, it was kind of difficult. Like, not the act of animating a thing, but the act of getting that animation working without flaws in a live environment with gameplay and sandbox and physics-related stuff going on. It was kind of, like, fiddlier than it had to be. And that was probably, you know, some of that probably is, like, you know, this Blam engine has a lot of legacy issues where back in the day, the developers design a certain system thinking like, okay, like, we'll just do it like this, not realizing that this would kind of become a core part of the series for the next decade. If they did know that, they probably would have made that system way more easy to code and a lot more streamlined and balanced around, you know, future-proofing it so that future developers can hop in and easily do this. But things like assassinations, at least under the hood, they seem kind of like they didn't really consider like long-term use when Bungie at least implemented them. And then, you know, Halo 5 was kind of like difficult for the developers to implement, so the Slipspace engine handles animations under the hood slightly differently, and it's a little bit easier for developers to craft animations and integrate them into the game. Killer says, DOS playing Halo Infinite feels like a dream, kinda. We've waited so long for it to come out. It does kind of feel like a dream, right? It's also, like, weird just because it looks like a classic-style Halo game, but, like, with modern production values. And so there is a lot of, like, I described when I talked about the campaign, how just really weird it felt being in Forerunner environments, because they look ripped straight out of the original trilogy, but they've got, like, really high-quality screen-spaced reflections and stuff like that, and like volumetric fog, and it just like breaks my brain because the last time I saw this art style was in like Halo 3/Reach. You know, it's like, yeah, it's very cool. It's a very cool experience, you know, and having Halo Infinite finally here after so long, like, oh boy, let's get up here. Oh boy. Born Seller says, this may be a little too soon to ask, but couldn't 343 5 years down the line make an ODST style game using all the infinite resources just add on? Yes, I would. So I'm actually an advocate for reusing assets. People get like really mad, unrealistically mad in my opinion, when they see something like God of War, where the new God of War Ragnarok reuses a getting into boat animation. And it's like, people get like really mad about that because they think it's like lazy. And what I can say is it's not laziness. That's being smart with what you have. Because with a new game, obviously you are going to have to make new assets. But if getting into a boat, if that animation worked in a previous game, and it means that you can now just work on another animation, you know, because getting into a boat is done, Like, dude, reuse that old animation. Reuse that old asset, you know? Don't just make something completely new, cuz. Halo 4, or not Halo 4, Halo 5 reuses the Halo Reach plasma pistol asset, or plasma rifle asset. Because it's good looking, you know, it holds up. Like, there's no reason for them to just make a new plasma rifle, even though that Reach one looks perfectly fine. There we go. Yeah, so I am an advocate for them making, like, future Halo games. Just reuse some of these assets and animations, you know, if it gives you guys more creative freedom, because you don't have to remake the assault rifle reload for every single game. You know? This is a good animation. Just use this one going forward. Focus your animation resources on new things. It's probably why, in this game, Halo Infinite reuses the walk cycle for the pistols. All the pistols in Halo Infinite, you walk the exact same way, the way it, like, bobs. Probably because it looks fine. Just throw it in there, and we can use the resources for something else. Let me scroll up a little bit. What is that yellow spooge on your assault rifle? Oh, this yellow spooge. This is the, it is an emblem for the Forerunners. Some of us who kind of, like, were brought in to help with Halo Infinite's development in 2019. They gave us, like, these, it's very weird looking, but, you know, might as well flex, put them on. I put the yellow spooge on the assault rifle, just so it can have a little bit of color. But on the pistol, I'm not quite happy with the color. I set this Forerunner symbol too. So I'll probably modify it, but... What does suck, though, about this Forerunner symbol is a lot of the emblems in this game, I think, look kind of cooler. Nadine says, this sounds a little bit conspiratorial, but I wonder if the assault rifle is as strong as it is right now so that skins in the shop will be more desirable. I don't think that's the reason why. I think it's actually more for an accessibility and an ease of use thing. Basically, like, it's like, you know, Call of Duty has that M4A1, which is kind of like the go-to launch assault rifle where it's just all around good. It doesn't take a lot of skill to use, you know, and it's even better when you start throwing attachments on it. Destiny, most auto rifles in the game are just fine, like, they're great. They're very easy to use, not a lot of skill. It's an accessibility thing, you know? Make a gun where all you have to do is center the screen and hold down the trigger. And after a little bit of time, you'll get a little ding that says that you killed somebody. It's just making the weapons easier to use. Halo, traditionally, there's a little bit more skill involved with the assault weapons. Or, not assault weapons, the automatics. Like, you have to combine different things, whether it's throw a grenade, pop the shields, mow them down with your assault rifle. Mow them down, pop the shields, melee. Like, there was a little bit more thinking and skill involved. Now it's a little bit less skill, and you can just use it functionally on its own. It's for accessibility. Eggman says, love to see you using the commando. My favorite weapon in the game, and in the game it feels like a fully auto DMR. Time to play Reach again. Yeah, the commando's a cool weapon. It's a weapon that I turned around on quite a lot. Deep Fried Nendroid is a new member of the channel. Welcome to our Night Owls, where we stay up late at night and play video games. Dim Sum Garbage says, honestly, if they absolutely want to keep the Infinite AR as lethal as it is, just reduce the range so that it can be CE dog shit at ranged encounters, but a monster at CQC. See, that's the way I prefer the assault rifle, just because of how dangerous a fully automatic weapon is in Halo, especially a ranged one. But, you know, a lot of players want, like, these fully automatic weapons to have a lot of range to them. So I guess that's almost like that's a discussion where we'd need to talk with the community and have a compromise. Daniel Hardman says, what are your thoughts on no assassinations at launch? The reason given for them being the reason for them not being in the game was stupid, balancing, yet it's never been an issue before. Yeah, there was an article, there was an interview where they said, like, when we look at the data, a lot of people turn them off. And immediately, as a YouTuber, no, that's not the reason you took them out, okay? Because as a YouTuber, I can tell you that assassination B-roll footage of, like, all, you know, those compilation clips of all the animations, those make bank. People love assassination. So no, I don't buy that. But also that interview that was given, what's unfortunate about that interview is I don't think that was actually the reason. That was a reason that the developers gave, that they just kind of threw it out there in competitive modes. The pro players turned them off. But they didn't actually give the reason that they were taken out. But unfortunately, a lot of news outlets ran with that being the real reason, so it's kind of unfair to the developers, but... Oh boy. See, I won that slot machine round. We were both firing our weapons. The RNG gifted me more headshots than him. Timothy O'Sullivan says, the AR is perfect. It is a master of none. In skilled play, it is decent, but loses against weapons with a specific role, e.g. it loses to the BR at mid-range and loses to the sidekick at close range. So, Timothy, I actually appreciate the money, by the way. I don't actually agree with the master of none, because due to the very nature of it, RNG, that means sometimes it definitely is the master of something. I was in a duel, actually, with the sidekick that I won, and the guy was landing all the shots. He was spamming it, and I was just holding down the trigger, and I happened to win because the RNG let more bullets hit that guy's head. You know, I've won duels with people who were using sidekicks, and they had really good aim, and they were doing all the right things. I wasn't even strafing, you know, I was just moving forward. They were strafing, bobbing, you know, landing their shots. I just held down the trigger on them, and I feel like I should not have gotten those kills. You know, it was kind of unfair to them, because the weapon's bullet spread was just granting me a bunch of headshots. And the BR is in kind of like a weird situation where it almost feels like there's like really aggressive bullet magnetism for the headshots, to the point that like people will run around corners and I'll still land a headshot with the battle rifle. It doesn't feel very like, you know, it feels like it's giving me free headshots. Oh. Oh boy. Damn it! Okay. Give me that Harvest game from the perspective of Johnson using the Slipspace engine, says Mr. Dilson. That would be cool. Though I don't know if I'd want games of stories that have already been told, you know? Because I feel like almost the best thing about making a new video game set in the Halo universe, a spin-off, is you can tell a story never before seen. If it's a story that we have seen and are quite familiar with, then I feel like that would almost be like a missed creative opportunity. In fact, actually, sequels to books in the form of a game could be kind of interesting. Could you imagine kind of like, okay, so the ODST book, Bad Blood, I didn't really, or New Blood, I think it was New Blood, I liked that book a lot. I loved it. The sequel, I actually didn't like that much. And I almost wish that the sequel could have been done more in game form, where you could take Halo 5 squad mechanics that didn't quite work well, and what you could do instead is design a game using Halo 5 assets around the squad mechanics this time. So ditch some Halo conventions, things that Halo players are used to, and design the gameplay exclusively around the squad system in a shooter setting. And you could probably create something interesting with those assets and have it be a sequel to New Blood, instead of like that book. Deep Fried Nendroid says, still Sakura with a different name. Ah, okay. Gotcha, Deep Fried Nendroid. I may have accidentally grabbed an extra crispy onion to slice while I'm currently cooking while I watch my eyes burn. Oh, that's You should wash out those eyes. Don't do that. Don't let your eyes burn. Q Alter says, what is your and the Act Man's secret to making videos so rewatchable? Also, shock rifle is better than the sniper rifle, in my opinion. I'm definitely better with the shock rifle than the sniper. What is the secret to making the videos so rewatchable? Maybe it's production value. I don't know how you feel. Like, it's the production value of the videos where you don't feel like it's just, hey guys, back at you with another video. Today we're going to talk about, like, the videos try, I guess, like a little bit harder. So it is almost kind of like rewatching your favorite movie or something, I guess. Judson says, why did 343 remove emblems you can create? I missed that. Unfortunately, I think it's for monetization reasons. It's a lot easier to create. Same reason that they got rid of color customization. It's a lot easier to sell you developer-created emblems than it is to allow the community to make their own and not being able to monetize that. I wish that they would let us create our own emblems and sell us shapes, you know? That way we could, like, I mean, hell, that's like a good reason, you know? That's almost like buying arts and crafts store supplies, you know? Letting players buy shapes that they can use to create their own emblems. Eggman Gaming says, love to see you almost full auto the commando. It's DMR almost. Yeah, the commando is kind of like this weird... See, the commando I actually think is a lot more tasteful as a ranged automatic weapon than the assault rifle, which feels way too easy. Because the commando, it's got lots of shot pacing, you know, where you can't just melt somebody with it, because the shots are paced so well, so you can predict the enemy's firing pattern coming at you from a distance, and you can dodge it and make adjustments as needed. And the fact that it allows, like, the first couple of shots to be a little bit more accurate and actually does like, you know, encourage you to control the spread of the weapon. And even though there is bloom, I do hope that they add a more predictable spread pattern to this weapon, because I do think there is something to this weapon that's right now untapped, competitively at least. Damn it. I was hoping I could crawl away from that guy before he meleeed me. Lila, welcome to the Night Owls. I think I recognize you. Oh, Rebecca's excited that you're here. Nathaniel says, would you say the BR is the most consistent weapon in Infinite? Maybe not consistent, because I do think there's a difference between consistency and easy. The battle rifle, like the assault rifle, I think is very easy to use, whereas stuff like the commando I think is a little bit more tactical. Same with the Mangler's just freaking awesome. I actually really like that gun. More from like a potential standpoint. Like competitive Mangler starts could be cool, even if that's not very hashtag iconic. The battle rifle, I wish that it was a little bit harder to use in this game. I feel almost like the battle rifle has never been, like, truly, I guess, like, achieved. Like, the battle rifle in Halo 2 is extremely easy to use as well. What makes it more competitive is all of, like, the button combos and the counterplay and, like, the strategies that have formed over the years using it. And it's all built around the idea of a long-range weapon that has... There we go. Did you just see that? We were all landing our shots. I got the headshot first because of the RNG. That wasn't really skill, you know? That was kind of unfair to him. That wasn't a game of skill. That was a game of chance between the two of us. And I happened to win the slot machine rule spin. If this weapon had a consistent firing pattern, and we both were kind of trying to remember where the gun will buckle and recoil, and I happened to be a little bit more skilled than him, then that would have been a fair fight. What was I saying? Oh, the battle rifle. Yeah, the battle rifle, it's never really been fully achieved, I think. The Halo 2 one was, like, fine for competitive, but I do think it kind of, like, it was a little bit too easy to use mechanically. And then the Halo 3 one, due to a mixture of random blitz spread as well as just Halo 3's netcode being awful, it was either dominating or it was useless, as well as, like, other sandbox things. Like, there's a lot of weapons in Halo 3 that unfortunately were not very well designed, and so there was rarely a reason to use anything other than the battle rifle. And then Halo 4, it just became a free kill weapon. Halo 5 was kind of similar, though when they balanced it, now it's like people aren't quite sure competitively what the Halo 5 battle rifle's supposed to be. And this thing, unfortunately, kind of adopts the Halo 4 approach, where it's just kind of like free headshots for days. And you feel like there's something funky going on under the hood, like the game is kind of being a little bit more generous with the hit detection. I would like to see them add projectiles to the battle rifle, so at a range, you have to lead your shots a little bit. Because I think that would introduce a little bit more skill to the battle rifle. You know, and not like Halo 3, where it had slow-moving projectiles that also sometimes vanished due to server issues. I feel like Halo 3 kind of tainted a lot of people's opinion on projectiles, where a lot of their issues were not actually the nature of projectile weapons, it was the bad netcode that was eating your shots. It's a lot like Reach's motion blur, you know? What people thought was motion blur bad in Reach, that was actually a very bad implementation of temporal anti-aliasing. That muddied up the image as you moved the camera. And you'd see like a ghost of the previous frame every time that you moved. The actual motion blur in Reach looked pretty good. It was actually slightly better than like Halo 3's, you know, when objects are in motion and you see a little bit of blur on their feet, or when you're sprinting and just the corners of your screen are slightly blurred, with the center of your screen being crystal clear. Like, all that stuff looked good in Reach. Once I die, I'm going to answer some more questions. Okay. Let me scroll up a little bit. Din Some Garbage says, here's another $5 because you've been my favorite content creator for years now. Also nerf energy sword launch distance or speed. Thank you, Din Some Garbage. I think an easy way to fix the sword issue is if they added a way to block like the sword users from being able to run around like crazy. We gotta have the shotgun back, you know? Timothy says... Let me see. I'm interested to hear Timothy. I appreciate your opinion on the AR, but you only lose to the sidekick if you're missing your shots. Love your channel, dude. Okay, that's fair, Timothy, because I do have no way to know if he landed every single shot. What do you think, though, at least? So, we can say that, like, you know, we want these... Maybe... We both want the assault rifle to have skill, right? Like, we want it to be a skillful weapon. Do you agree, at least, that this assault rifle could be better? That it could be made more skillful? If it did have kind of like a predictable firing pattern, where it always recoiled the exact same way? Achilles up there saying they need SWAT. I'm curious to hear how you think about that. Do you think that the assault rifle could be made more skillful? So you think the assault rifle has skill. That's okay. Like, I won't argue with that. Do you think, though, that it could have even more skill if the predictable recoil patterns were introduced? Because then players would have to memorize the way that it kicked, and it would lead to, like, a lot more thinking during gunfights, you know, because you're playing to the weapon that you know quite well. It's rewarding, like, your skill and your knowledge with it, as opposed to, like, RNG, the bullets go everywhere. Shrimp Guy says, I understand 343 needs to make money, but wasn't everyone's money when games launched? Wasn't everyone making money when games launched for $60? I can't enjoy a game that begs I spend more money just to customize my character. I think that's it's a difference in, unfortunately, like, as you know, it's almost kind of like a symptom of inflation, where as, like, you know, inflation kind of like grows and like prices become a little bit more expensive, like also like the cost of maintaining a studio goes up, and also some of it definitely is that like studios are becoming bigger and bigger. So something that a lot of people I think like misunderstand is like Halo Infinite as a piece of software, it didn't accept money from people. It's not like Microsoft, please, we need some money, and then it's okay, here you go, and then they shove that money into their computer and Master Chief starts dancing. Like, most of that budget actually comes from man and operating hours, you know, paying your employees, keeping the lights on, and as well as like other costs of just maintaining a studio. It doesn't literally just be put into the video game. It goes to the people that are making the video game. And sometimes that money also goes into outsourcing. You know, you're thinking like all of our modelers right now at the studio are working on X, Y, and Z. Let's go to Speedtree so that they can help with some of our assets. Here's like, you know, we're going to sign a contract with them. Here's a bunch of money, like stuff like that, you know. So as inflation has increased, game prices have stayed locked at $60, and they've stayed that way for a while, even though the actual amount of money that goes into the production of a video game, like games are becoming more expensive to make than they used to be, and the production values are increasing because, you know, there's more employees working on a game at any given time. And as like these prices of production are increasing, the actual retail price is staying the same. So what's kind of funny is like that $70 price tag from Sony, it probably could be closer to $90, and that would be the equivalent of the $60 price tag during the 360 generation. But for obvious reasons, like, we're not made of money. You know, we're not going to pay $90 for a video game. That's ridiculous. So the price is keeping the same at $60. But now you're starting to see, you know, some of these external means of making money, which sucks. Because I personally would pay $90 if it meant that at least like the game I'd get wasn't trying to fleece me at every opportunity, you know? I almost wish that we could have more $90 single player games, you know? Where it's like, there's no microtransactions, there's no end game, there's none of this. It's just a really good single player or multiplayer. It's $90. If you pay for it, it's yours, and all the content in the game is yours. And have fun. That's kind of what I liked about DLC. As much as it sucked splitting up the player base, at least it was like, well, you know, that's how they were making their money. Let me answer some more things. Oh, I think I'm all caught up. Oh my gosh, I missed a couple of things. Hang on. Wolfsbane says, there is no bad OG Halo concepts, only bad code and servers. Also, what weapons need a buff and a nerf? So Wolfsbane, the weapons that need a buff, in my opinion, I think that buff doesn't just mean stat changes, like, you know, increasing. I think sometimes you can buff a weapon by tweaking areas around a weapon. So the Stalker Rifle is an example. I think it needs a buff, but how I would buff it is not altering the range or rate of fire or anything. I'd get rid of that scope glint, because I feel like it's being treated as being as lethal as a sniper rifle, but it's not as lethal as a sniper rifle. So having that giant glowing ball of light giving away that poor weapon operator, it's like, no, get rid of that, you know? The Stalker Rifle is already hard enough to use. And I feel like it would be a lot easier if you weren't giving away your players when they're using a simple function of the weapon like a scope. You know, the Stalker Rifle, it's not very magnetic. It shots, so it punishes you severely when you miss your shots. And I think the loud, glowing trail of the sniper rounds, that's enough of a giveaway, you know? The poor user doesn't also need, like, the gigantic glowing light. I think that's like a byproduct of these kind of like loadout-driven shooters where they all have like these scopes on them because there is no D-scope. There's not really a lot of downsides to being shot well in a scope. Maybe just a minor flinch or something like that. But Halo has D-scope. If you know that a sniper's locked on you because they missed their shot and you can trace the trail back to the weapon operator, just start firing in his direction and you'll knock him out of scope and successfully suppress him and he'd be forced to move. I don't think, you know, like that sniper operator needs to have their position given away for using the weapon as intended. Timothy O'Sullivan says, yes, get rid of the AR bloom. I just don't... I don't think it's a skilled weapon now. I just like that it's not useless. I also wish the BR wasn't hit scan. Yeah, I agree with you, Timothy, on both of those points. On both of those points. The AR is definitely not useless anymore, and it could become a lot more skillful. And yes, I agree with you completely. I wish that the BR wasn't hit scan, because I think that hit scan, it's just a little bit too easy to use. Something I'd love to see is commando rifle, like, starts for some of these modes, because the commando rifle, I think, is pretty interesting as a weapon. Same with the Mangler. Oh boy. I actually got a shot back there with the battle rifle, a headshot that I didn't feel comfortable with, because I felt like I shouldn't have earned that. I can't quite remember when, though. But Shrimp Guy says, I want to unlock stuff in a game with my performance and game time. I'd pay $90. Yeah. Yeah, I would too. It would also mean that I'm probably spending less money on games overall. And that games, they'd have to be a hell of a lot better, you know, because they're charging $90 for people, so no half measures. And I feel like it would also, like, I think the one-time price tag also encourages developers and managers specifically to be a little bit more effective, I guess, with their development time. Because as, like, you know, Jason Schreier with, like, Anthem, something we learned about some AAA games, and I guess, like, a big popular Battlefield leaker is going to be kind of explaining what happened with that game. Something we're starting to see, I think, a lot is that a lot of time is kind of wasted in a game's development cycle with, like, concepting and prototyping, and you kind of get caught in these loops of not really being able to settle on an idea. And I feel like if you knew you had that flat $90, like, safety net from a purchase, you'd feel a little bit more breathing room to be able to feel like, okay, this idea is kind of unusual, but I think we might be able to do it. Shell Hunter says single shot is better than burst, at least for headshot weapons. Yeah, I used to think the other way. I used to think that burst weapons were more interesting, but after playing with Infinite and, you know, also, like, you know, opinions change over time. I do think the idea of, like, a single shot kinetic weapon is a little bit more interesting as a competitive weapon, because a burst, there is still a little bit of a safety net, where if you miss one shot in the burst, there's still the other two shots that can hit. See that bar? When that bar goes all the way up, the vehicle's going to spawn. That's a mechanic not a lot of people know, is you can track these wall weapons when they're going to spawn. Uh-oh, sudden death. Yeah, we have been playing CTF a bit too much like Slayer. I didn't even know we were playing CTF. I'm just focused on talking. It's okay. It's not like there's any, like, you know, challenges. I'm sure all these people kind of appreciate being able to have a little bit more breathing room to complete some of their, you know, do a kick flip while eating a lollipop challenges for 50 XP. Yeah, Mohammed Al-Rashid, that $100 donation earlier. Dude, that was... I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. What about a $50 annual pass? You could get a battle pass on the side and you level up based on performance. And each tier is either cosmetic or 100 in-game currency. You can't pay to progress. It's infinite. That's a solid idea, actually. How would you guys feel about something like, even though up front it's like, what? Like $50? How would you feel about having some kind of like, listen, pay this price, everything for the year you're going to be able to earn via gameplay, including the stuff in the in-game store? Like $50 or $60. Basilisk says, how do you feel... or do you feel like the SMGs have a place in Halo Infinite's multiplayer? I actually do, because the assault rifle is now fundamentally such a different weapon from how it used to be, where in a classic Halo game I'd say no, because the assault rifle already had that role of like the CQC weapon, but in Infinite it doesn't really have that kind of bullet hose in close range, to the point that I actually think that kind of affects the campaign. I noticed the assault rifle is a lot more like a battle rifle in the campaign setting, where you're landing headshots on grunts. Whereas you think in like Combat Evolved, you enter a hallway full of grunts and just unload, you know, and the hull is full of bullets and it's catching all the grunts and they're all recoiling and staggering. The weapon's a little bit too precise to be able to do that in Infinite. So yeah, I think that there is a place for an SMG in this game. John Paladin says, don't know if this has been discussed yet, but I don't like the armor for the Mark 7 core, mainly the chest pieces, especially since the coatings don't change them. Makes them look out of place for me. So John Paladin, it's not just you, man. Like, I am disappointed that the Reach had that like chest piece system where you didn't really unlock new chest pieces, you just unlocked attachments for the chest. And Infinite is doing something similar. And it does kind of suck that like these attachments that you put on the chest aren't affected by your coatings. We're gonna hide up here. This is the go-to strat with Oddball. See, let a person come up here. Ah, damn it! He was cloaked. I wasn't expecting that. Raining Synthwave says, thoughts on Halo weapons potentially coming to Destiny 2 with the 30th anniversary pack. There looked like a BR and a Covenant looking ornament. That's cool. I've been taking a bit of a sabbatical from Destiny, because Destiny is starting to get a bit too live servicey, where I kind of feel like the game's bullying me to play it like a job. And, you know, the fun is gone. Also, like, I have some, you know, real life responsibilities now where it's kind of like I have less free time than I used to for gaming, and some games are going to take that sacrifice, and right now it's Destiny for now. I am excited about the Witch Queen, but I guess that's cool if there are some Halo weapons that are coming to Destiny. Deep Fried Nendroid says, I'm sad now, I spilled my soup. Clean it up, Nendroid. Don't spill your soup. Wolfsbane says, true, I was having a hard time with the Stalker rifle for a challenge earlier. Also, what do you think of unique vehicle spawn times, like the tanks? I don't like that. I don't know how you guys feel, but it feels like Big Team Battle is like... the matches kind of all feel the same because they're all paced the same. I know that they said that the goal for that is to make matches feel a little bit more intense, but I think matches already felt intense, and they felt very varied before. Like, Valhalla had Scorpion spawns. What was called Rat Race had just a lot of Warthogs and stuff. Like, there was also already a lot of variety with vehicle spawns. Now, because every single map has like these bare bones spawn, and then after a while an air vehicle comes in, and then after a while a scorpion, it just means that all of the maps now have the same pacing and kind of like, you know, escalation of vehicle types. I'd prefer, honestly, that banished base map, you know, if just there were wraiths on either side for each team to use out of the gate. I think that that could be a lot of fun, a lot more banished, a lot more ghost type stuff. That would be really cool to me, because it would allow that banished map to kind of have its own identity, sandbox identity, compared to the other maps. Unfortunately, a lot of big team battle kind of feels samey. Homogenized is the term. The milk product MK2 says, anyone notice that the Mark 5B is missing its visor cap? It is? Huh. You should point that out on Twitter to some of the artists. Stephen Parker says, thoughts on the playlist update? I'm excited about it, Stephen Parker, but an issue I do have is what they said about it. I don't quite agree, where they said they wanted to test new modes with the events before adding them as a playlist. And Fiesta isn't a new mode. Neither is SWAT. Neither is Free-for-All. You know, those are very much traditional Halo modes, and that had their own playlists. And I hope that, you know, maybe I misunderstood what they meant. Because that would really suck if they're treating classic Halo modes as new modes. Yes! There. And we just hide, let my team take care of him. So the only way for them to come is there and there. And this thing swings so fast that you can actually beat them down faster than they can beat you down. So let them come around the corner and then just wail on them with this thing, and they won't be able to stop you unless they damage you beforehand. Which, if you've got a buddy with you, that's going to be very rare. Watch this. Here they come. Oh, they're all charging. Guy behind us. There, see? I mean, he had his buddy with him, but if you've got somebody up there who's covering you, you can lock down that tower. Tempotic, I hope I said that right, says, maybe a $10 a month pass that takes your in-game points, divides them by 10, and turns them into XP for the battle pass you're on. Huh. Yeah, that could work. There's a lot of solutions to the battle pass problem. It's not unsolvable. Oh boy, let's get out of here. It's definitely not an unsolvable problem, you know? Yes! That was cool. Damn it. Okay. In what game... So, Armani Villafani says, in what game do you think the elites had the smartest AI in terms of decision-making and combat? And where would you rank Infinite's elites? So... Smartest AI, I guess, is like an interesting topic, because with video games, I think like what makes good AI and fun AI different from each other is like the decisions that they can make in combat, and if that leads to a fun combat experience that, like, you know. In my opinion, I think Halo Combat Evolved had the most fun elites to fight against, and that's actually because they couldn't do a lot of things that they did in later Halo games. So in Halo 2, they could like climb boxes and stuff and interact with the environment in a more realistic way, but just due to the way that they were programmed, they'd sometimes get caught making like really bizarre decisions, like they'd just start climbing the same box over and over again instead of like attacking you. And I think, like, in the case of Combat Evolved, the fact that they didn't have, like, a wide variety of tactical options to do, they just had a few set things, it meant that the decisions they made during combat and at any given time were more focused. So Combat Evolved is not being the smartest AI, I think it was the most fun because all of the decisions that they did make were sensible to me, and it led to a fun, enjoyable gameplay experience. Why don't we hop into Big Team Battle? After this match, I am going to call it quits for a little bit, guys, but I would say Infinite's AI, they almost need to be talked about in a very different context, because Halo, off the bat, yes, Infinite's AI are very smart, much smarter than previous campaigns, but also Halo Infinite's AI have unique challenges in that they are in an open world-ish environment, not a linear level, where the developers can kind of tune the AI for all instances. Like, when you're in, there are instances in Infinite where the AI kind of like get caught up on weird level geometry stuff, but I almost feel like that's not the AI's fault. That's kind of, you know, it's the nature of an open world game. There's going to be things that they didn't account for when programming those AI. And in fact, it's kind of interesting because there's some areas of the game where I almost wonder if they're new additions. Joe Staten mentioned adding new, like, things like, you know, Marines around the environment and stuff that you can capture because he felt the original vision was a little bit too lonely, Halo Infinite. And that's where I actually find the most issue with the AI, is those moments where you see, like, captured Marines. The AI almost don't seem to know that that totem that has the Marines tethered up, they don't seem to know that that's a thing, so they'll get caught up on it. They'll try rushing you, and they'll run right into it, and they'll get caught. And they're, like, locking you dead in the eye. You know, that charging brute, he wants to mess me up. But an invisible force is holding him back, and that invisible force, I can see it. It's that tether. And so it kind of like, some of those new additions to the campaign, I guess, are where the AI start to fall apart, because it looks like they weren't quite as finely tuned. Whereas some of the older stuff, like Ransom Keep, I found the AI navigating that environment was quite intelligent and smart. Colin says, is it just me or is the gravity hammer swing slow as fuck? It is. It's very slow. Maybe a little bit too slow. Stephen Parker says, at least it's not Valorant, LOL. I feel like Valorant is, you know, at least it's not Valorant doesn't provide me a lot of comfort, because Valorant is so comically greedy with its skin that there's like a lot underneath the Valorant, you know? There is so much greedy ground for games to cover because of how comically greedy Valorant is, that I feel like, well, at least it's not Valorant. That could mean anything because of how greedy Valorant is. You know, we should always hold, like, our games and their monetization systems accountable. Damn it. Let's go. Oh, man. Hyperspeed Fox says, any idea if the multiplayer map will make it into the game? You know the one. Which one? The multiplayer map? Oh, are you talking about that leak? I say in quotes, the leak of, like, was it like midship or something that somebody said, where it was just like, no. Or are you talking about some kind of fan favorite map? So Bornsteller says, off topic, but what were your thoughts on the live action trailers? I'm not saying they're bad, but compared to Starry Night, We Are ODST, Believe, Landfall, and even Halo 5, it didn't ring with me, I guess. I thought it was pretty well executed, I guess, like, as a trailer. But I do agree with you. And I think part of that, why those worked, I think, is music choices. I just think like some of those trailers, they do that like those build-up-y stuff. And I also think some of it is definitely like framing. Where so I actually like those trailers quite a bit, like those live action ones, but something that I noticed a lot about them is that they're very kind of like fast-paced, I guess, where you think of like Starry Night and how long it takes to get going before you realize it's like a Halo trailer. This one kind of like out of the gate, it's just like boom, boom, boom. We're jumping around time so fast. We don't even have like establishing shots for some of these like environments. I feel like those trailers could benefit from maybe like a little bit more breathing room. And I do think some of the shots where, I think it's a shot where Chief is kind of like looking over a battlefield, I feel like it's almost too cluttered. Like I couldn't quite focus on certain areas, so it made the battlefield feel very claustrophobic. And I feel like almost you have to approach it more like a Lord of the Rings type scale, you know, of just like these large distances with hundreds of people going to war, you know, not kind of like this condensed for like grassy field with lots of stuff just kind of smushed into frame, if that made sense. I know what you're talking about. That big shot that was supposed to be the breathtaking shot where Chief sees that battlefield, it didn't land with me either, and I think that's what didn't land with me. It was just a little bit too condensed. And I think the music, they did use quite a lot of Halo-y music, but I think that they could have used a little bit more. Eggman Gaming says, so I think the try new game modes was more testing them with new weapons and sandboxes. Okay, gotcha. All right. It's not me, it's you, says literally nobody would run into a pack of hungry hyenas like that, and that lady carrying the rifle would die pretty much immediately. It's not about whether you die or not. Like, listen, when you're looking at a hype trailer, it's not about realism. Think of, like, Starry Night. Why would Chief run at mortar fire? You know, wouldn't he want to find a long-ranged weapon to take out the mortars, the wraiths? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's more for dramatic effect. And the lady running out there, what kind of bothered me is I didn't quite know what the problem was. You know, we didn't see kind of like this big field, like the house. Could you imagine the house being surrounded on like all sides? Like seeing kind of like a big drone-esque shot, and that lady picks up that rifle, kicks down the door, and runs right into it. Like how powerful that would be as a shot, you know, symbolizing like humanity's will versus overwhelming odds, that sometimes it just takes willpower to overcome those things. You know, because that's very much what they were trying to go with. You know, the hungry hyenas, the house surrounded by artillery, and Chief fighting the banished. It's supposed to not literally be like, look, people can realistically take on an army. It's supposed to symbolize humanity's just our knack at surviving seemingly impossible odds. And you want to visually represent that.
The enemy team has scored.
Mr. Rafflecopter Z says, how do you feel about the hard limit on daily XP? Can't get the daily more than 50 times. I was trying to max out the battle pass before campaign, but I can't. Yeah, that sucks. But to be fair also, like, could you max out Reach's progression system within a month of the game coming out? You probably could, but you'd have to be like playing unhealthy hours. Oh wait, hang on. I said that this would be our last game. Okay, I'm gonna disconnect from the server. Yeah, sorry guys. I got something that I need to do quickly. So that was unfortunate. Let me try that sentence again. That was unfortunately my last game for the evening. I do hope that you guys enjoyed the stream though. That was a lot of fun. And hopefully, check out, you know, the video that I'm gonna upload tomorrow. I'm actually looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts. What UI colors do you use? They looked really nice on the enemy shields. Oh, man. Okay, so there's something that is pretty cool that you can do to the enemies that I think makes them look more organic in the environments than a harsh red. Go to the bottom of the color list, and there's, like, carrot and stuff like... Use some of those orangey colors. I think it looks better than the generic red. All right, guys. Oh, Dangerville says, the trailer was just poorly made, in my opinion. Chief is animated really poorly, and it contrasts against the rest of the trailer, which is very nicely made. The UNSC archives are brilliant, though. Yeah, the UNSC archives were brilliant, and I think almost that's down to, like, the production. I wonder if that trailer, they just didn't, like, have enough time or, like, resources. Because we have no clue how, like, you know, COVID and working from home impacts production. A lot of, like, modern AAA games that are coming out are, like, unusually sloppy when it comes to their cutscene-y type stuff. You notice a lot of, like, small editing and animation errors more than usual, and I wonder how much of that is due to, well, you know, working from home. But Dangerville that then says, P.S. I love you. I love you too, Dangerville. We gotta play Halo sometime, man. We've been following each other on Twitter forever. Alrighty, guys, I will be signing off now. I hope you all enjoyed this stream. That was very entertaining, and I'll see you next time.